Hey guys, it's Tracy Latona with Golden Rose Financial Coaching, and welcome to a rendition of Tracy's Tuesday Talks. I'm so glad you're here. We are getting started a few minutes earlier than I announced, just in case there's any technical issues. And joining me today is my wonderful dear friend Adrian Kashperanko with Cash Flow Solutions. Adrian is also a Ramsey Preferred Financial Coach. She spent quite a bit of time, lived out in Washington State for a while. We didn't know each other then, and now she's over on the East Coast in the DC area. So as she is getting ready to hop on here, today's topic of conversation is relevant to this week and the rest of the year. Conversations with family. This is such a touchy topic. For some people, it's great. It's wonderful for some people to come out and just visit family that you haven't seen in a long time. Welcome, Adrian. She is coming. And for some people, the holidays and being around family is really stressful and really difficult. Hey, well, great to have you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for asking me. I am humbled that you would ask me to talk about this subject.
So I was just describing to our audience our topic of conversation, family conversations around the holidays. For some people, it's a great time. They're super excited. You know, the family intentionally gets together with great mindsets, thinking this is going to be wonderful. We're going to have a good time, have that vulnerability and catch up. And for some people, there's a lot of apprehension and a lot of fear and stress. So I just wanted to bring on somebody who is great, better than I am, at least with boundaries, and have a conversation with you about, you know, what are some tips, tricks, and practical things to keep in mind going into the holidays with family and friends?
Well, so I guess the reason why I was a little confused when you asked me is that I haven't spent holidays with my so-called family, like my blood family, for a really long time. I grew up in an alcoholic home, and the last time I attempted to have a family holiday, my son ended up terrified. So really it was me making a choice of how I wanted to protect, how I wanted my life to turn out, or how I wanted my children's life to turn out, or how I wanted, just really what do I want to allow into my space? What do I want to allow into the gate of my life? And unfortunately, you know, I haven't had those holidays, but I have kept contact, if that makes sense. So what do you feel like I need to be more specific about there, Tracy?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being that vulnerable on a Facebook Live. It's one thing when it's a group of coaches or one-to-one, but for Facebook, thank you so much for sharing your story. And there's so many people out there who have similar stories, myself included. And I think that was one of the reasons why the Lord put your name in my mind of who should I ask. So for you, tell me your thought process around, okay, so this is, you know, you talked about a toxic environment. What was your thought process, and how did you get that boldness to put up those boundaries of, okay, this is what I want my life to look like, and this is how I'm going to enforce that?
Well, first, I think it helped. I have kids, and there's just this natural thing that might happen, that happens for parents of, I want my kids to be better than me. And so that was the mindset going into kind of protecting them from those things, but also talking to them about those things. So it's not that, you know, my family is bad. or anything like that. So we go into those kind of mindsets. It's that these are just things that we're going to put a line up and not allow into our life.
Yeah.
And here's the reasons why. And here's what could happen, further down the road if we don't. So really it's just kind of setting that we still love people and we still pray for people. And I guess that's what you can bring into any family discussion, is to decide ahead of time that I guess I should caveat this by saying I'm no expert. So anything I say is for insight, not for education. But really it's giving grace, because we are all different. And our old pastor used to say, everyone, there's that one person that kind of gets on your nerves and kind of grates on your soul a little bit, and extra grace is required for that person, right? But not only do you need to give extra grace, you need to remember that I am a person like that to someone too. And I would appreciate extra grace.
Yeah, absolutely. You have said that before in one of our one-to-one conversations, extra grace required. And I'm that person to somebody else. And I've carried that with me. And there are times when I'm talking to people and they're just driving me crazy. And I'm just like, okay, extra grace required. Lord Jesus, please help me. So I wrote down a couple of things to guide our conversation. So, Adrian, what is the most awkward question that you repeatedly get asked around either whether family conversations or friend conversation? And anyone who jumps onto this, feel free to put that in the comments. What is the most awkward question that you repeatedly get asked?
It's awkward for me when someone knows I'm a financial coach, but they don't know what my principles are. So they'll talk to me like, like, hey, I thought I might take out this debt to do this thing and buy this crypto and blah, blah, blah. And like, so I'm really excited. I'm so educated on this, right? And so they're like, like, yeah, that's awkward. It's awkward because I'm not going to go there with them. If I kind of like to, I'm going to put my coaching hat on when I need to put my coaching hat on, and I keep it off for being, especially around family who maybe don't understand what I do or how I do it or what my principles are. So there's extra grace.
Yeah, extra grace. For me, it's like my husband and I have been married for 12 and a half years. For me, it's still, so when are you guys going to have kids?
Oh.
And you're still asking me this 12 years later. Like, I get it when you first get married and everyone's super excited, but at this point, it's like, I'm going to be vulnerable here. Like, that breaks my heart when I get asked that, because it's up to the Lord.
Right.
So here's another thing. How should we come prepared for spending time with family? Or our gatherings? How should we come prepared for spending time with family or gatherings?
Don't set expectations too high, and maybe even decide ahead of time what a success would be, and make it small with that expectation of being low, right? So let's not pretend before we go and get this expectation that it's all going to be perfect this time, and that, like in my case, he's not going to drink this time. And like, don't go in with a mindset of setting you up for failure.
Yeah.
Think it through, think about it realistically, and then just decide what would a success be? Maybe me not losing my temper. I have a temper. You may not know that, but
Oh,
me not losing
sweet.
my temper. Well, I, or maybe it's, I'm just going to go in with the mindset. I always try to give myself a mission. So like, I'm going to go with the mindset of, I'm just going to serve. Maybe I'm just going to serve. I'm going to serve as many people in my family. And it doesn't matter what they're talking about. My mission today is to serve my family. Or maybe my mission is to make sure I say 5 kind things to each person at that table throughout the day. Or maybe my mission, like you just come up with something, and then at the end, if I can have accomplished that, that I will consider a success. It kind of shifts your brain from thinking about all these things that might be annoying or to achieving something while you're there.
Yeah.
I try to implement this in a lot of things, especially if I'm having anxiety. I did this at enrichment. On the first night we were there, I can get overwhelmed. I just decided, you know what? I'm going to meet 20 new people tonight. And that gives me permission to cut off a conversation. It gives me permission to move on and meet new people and do other things. So go in with
By the way,
a
I have to comment on that.
Accomplish.
There were so many coaches who were just like, did you hear what Adrian's doing? She's on a mission to talk to 20 people that she has never met before. And we were all just like, we should be doing that. You set the bar high, girlfriend.
That saved me from being that awkward person in the corner going, I wonder, just questioning myself or questioning, let's just move it aside and give myself a mission.
That is excellent. I love it. So having realistic expectations, not having this idea in your head of how you want things to be, but really looking at them from a practical standpoint of, okay, so Uncle Joe's an alcoholic. He's probably going to have a beer or several. And thinking about, okay, shifting your mind from how can I endure this to how can I serve? And coming from that mindset of how can I serve, you are absolutely right. It does shift our mindset from being self-centered to outward-centered. So you're looking for the positive things. You're looking for things to keep your minds in the correct mindset. That is awesome.
And I
You
will
are the
add,
right
just
person.
in my case, knowing what threshold to watch for. So in my case with an alcoholic, in this case, he is not a friendly alcoholic. So what is the threshold I need to be watching for to exit? To keep myself safe, to keep my family safe, and to know what that is ahead of time going in, so that it's not this big deal and a big surprise. If it doesn't happen, awesome. But if it does, you have your boundary, you know what it is. It's time to go.
Yeah. And that was actually my next question was, how can we practically put boundaries in place beforehand?
Yeah.
So there's that internal boundary that you just described. And also maybe potentially calling the host or the hostess and saying, hey, I've noticed the trends. There's a lot of talk about politics that leads to arguing. There's a lot of talk about XYZ and it gets uncomfortable. Just as a heads up, can you talk to so-and-so about the thing that puts people on edge or makes people uncomfortable, and have a conversation or offer to do it yourself? And just let them know ahead of time, hey, if this happens, I'm just going to excuse myself and take my plate of turkey and my drumstick and go up to the other room. And it's not to be divisive or anything, but just a boundary.
And another perspective on that too is, I don't know, in my case, I think if that works for you and you know the hostess and that's going to work well, great. In my case, I probably wouldn't call her to let her know I'd be leaving the room. What I would probably do is just remember and maybe even chant over and over again in my head and stay and remain in the conversation, but I don't need to be right. I don't need to be right.
Yes.
And it's okay. I would give up being right to be here with people I love.
Yeah.
So even though, we all have our deep convictions and our deep understanding of things, but you know what? Today, I don't have to be right.
That is
So
so good.
to just listen, and you can know, like you can even think in your head, I don't think they're right, but today I don't have to be right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, we can get so much deeper into this. Did you read my notes beforehand?
No, I didn't. Where would I have found them? I don't know.
So one of the things that I wrote down was, how do you respond when conversations go sideways? And one of the bullet points that I said, is being right actually going to change anything?
I
I
love
kid you
it.
not. I kid you not.
Yeah.
So how do we respond when conversations go sideways? One of the things that I thought about was bringing coaching skills of listening with curiosity into
Yeah.
the conversation. Because if somebody is really just going to town with making things awkward, intently listen to them. Give them your full attention. Create a little bit of eye contact, but don't like stare them down. Be curious and ask them about themselves, because people like to talk about themselves.
Yes. And a genuine curiosity. So, you know how we can always ask questions in kind of a passive aggressive way. I mean, I'm a recovering passive aggressive person as well. So we can ask, oh, really? Do you believe that? Like asking things in a very genuinely curious, tell me more about that. I hadn't heard of it in that way. What about this? This, not being threatening.
Can you help me
That's
understand
when
that a little?
things blow. Sure. What part?
That was another example in real life.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Can you help me understand that a little bit more? Yeah.
And then also, go ahead.
I think we're glitching a little bit.
Okay. Exercising the power of the pause.
Yeah. I would imagine you'd use that when you feel that feeling rise up in you that you might want to fight, right? Or you might want to confront, or I can't believe you've done this again, or, all those feelings that come up. Going in with a plan helps you to almost, in my life, I've almost eliminated that rise up feeling, because I can have my mission. I can know, how can I serve this person? And in that moment, you kind of turn it off a little bit in your head. You turn off the listening, but how can I serve this person right this minute? Can I take your plate for you? All the things. But yeah, pausing and remembering, what's my plan?
Yeah, that's so good. I have a favorite quote of mine from Eleanor Roosevelt. She says, "Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people."
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, no reason to. Oh, and here, the bottom line is no controversial topic that you come across at a Thanksgiving dinner table is going to solve whatever the controversial topic is. No conversation is going to solve it.
Yeah.
So it's okay to say, go ahead, Tracy.
I was just going to say that ties back to, do I have to be right in this moment?
Yeah.
Is this controversial?
I can be right tomorrow.
Exactly. Is this controversial topic that they're talking about a hill to die on Thanksgiving dinner with my family around me.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And if it is, you need to question if you should be there. Right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So how can you change your mindset to the positive? We already talked about this a little bit with going in with a mission to serve. You've answered like most of my questions before I've even asked them. I love it. So how can you change your mindset to the positive instead of going in and thinking, okay, I've just got to get through this?
Yeah. It all comes back to, I tell my kids this all the time. It comes back to having a plan to be positive, which includes the serving or includes the 5 positive things or includes, I even have a really good friend. She puts together little activities to kind of take everyone's minds off of those uh, topics so that everyone's focused on doing this little Thanksgiving thankfulness activity, and then we share, and then we do these other things. So she's completely taken all of kind of that off the table. So yes, there's just going in with a plan and not just letting it happen to you.
I love it. I love it. So as a reminder to our audience, we are in control of 3 things: our actions, our reactions, and our mindsets. Actions, reactions, and mindsets. Everything else is out of our control. And if you try to control it, you're just going to cause yourself stress. It's not going to be good. The anxiety is going to overflow with. Choose thankfulness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adrian, this has been so awesome. I couldn't have chosen a better person to have this conversation with. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for inviting me and thanks for believing in me. Feels good.
Absolutely. And just to do a little shout out, Adrian Kashperanko is a Rams preferred financial coach. She helps people with identity and she helps people take control of their financial future. And she is excellent. And you live in the DC area.
Yep.
Right.
Live in the DC
And you
area,
live
but I coach all over the country.
love it. So,
Yep.
Adrian Franco, if you would like to get to know her, she's an awesome person to get to know. Thanks, guys. Have a blessed day.